Once I lived the life of a millionaire. Spent all my money, I just didn't care. Took all my girlfriends out for a good time, buying bootleg liquor, champagne and wine. Then I began to fall so low. With no money, I had nowhere to go. If I get $1 in my pocket again, I'm gonna hold it till that eagle grins. Nobody knows you when you're down and out. When your pocket not one penny, and as for good friends, you haven't any. When you get back up on your feet again, everyone wants to be your long-lost friend. It's mighty strange without a doubt. Nobody knows you when you're down and out. That's right, nobody knows you when you're down and out. Pocket, not one penny, and I'm telling you, as for good friends, you haven't any. Oh, when you get back up on your feet again, everyone wants to be your long-lost friend. It's mighty strange without a doubt. Nobody knows you when you're down and out. That's right, nobody knows you when you're down and out. That's right, nobody knows you when you're down and out. Morning, everyone. Morning. Welcome to, I guess this is my service. I guess I'll be service leader. Thanks, everyone. I'll do a little bit of welcome and announcements here, I suppose. Next Sunday, we have got Doug speaking. Next 2 Sundays, we've got Doug speaking on his parting thoughts, ministry, mistakes, and respect, and then life in the gray zone. So, and then we also have the auction, which has been moved to September 17th, 2022. And start thinking about things you can donate to that. It could be services or social events or just items. And we also have the rummage sale coming up. The dates for the rummage sale are Friday and Saturday, June 17th and 18th. Volunteers are needed, so talk to Betsy. Betsy, raise your hand. Yeah, there you are. And we have the Tuesday discussion group, May 10th, 7 p.m. We will discuss false beliefs, which is, that's interesting. And then we also have a link to that we can see on the last Tuesday's Harbinger. And then, I'll let you guys read the rest of this stuff. Now, we do have a memorial service that I want to bring your attention to coming up on Saturday, May the 14th. My father will be playing the music for that, which I think is really cool because he knew Vic Sukup really well. And so I just want to have an advertisement for that because I like his music. Anyway, and we have some... Obviously, a big one is Doug's retirement, and his last date is going to be June 12th. Yes? Is that? Yes. And just so you know, I have been in contact with the board and, the people that are going to be doing the services after Doug leaves, and we have some updates on that, which I can't give too much information about yet, but it's exciting, and I just want you to know that we are excited about it. So. It's gonna be good. We're gonna be, pushing forward. Anyway, the opening words. I want to just get our minds right for the service. So I'm actually going to open up by lighting the chalice first. So could I have someone to light the chalice, a volunteer, while I play it, because I can't really do it myself. Any volunteer? You got it. Thank you. All right, here we go. Light the chalice. Rise up, O flame, by thy light glowing, show to us beauty, vision, and joy. Rise up, O flame, by thy light glowing, show to us beauty, vision, and joy. All right. Before we go into our opening hymn, I want to give you the opening words. And this is a quote from Martin Luther King, who was very against poverty and wealth inequality. And he said, "There is nothing new about poverty, but what is new is the fact that we have the resources to eradicate it." And so, everyone, join me in singing "Our World is One World." It's number 134 in your hymnal, or you can read the lyrics up on the screen. You can put things in the bowl if you so choose during this time. Yes, you can drop stones in the bowl. Yes. Our world is one world. What touches one affects us all. The seas that wash us round about, the clouds that cover us, the rains that fall. Our world is one world. The thoughts we think affect us all. The way we build our attitudes with love or hate we make, a bridge or wall. Our world is one world, just as some wealth affect us all. The way we spend, the way we share, who are the rich or poor, who stand or fall. Our world is one world, just like a ship that bears us all, where fear and greed make many holes, where our hearts can hear a different call. And now, moving right along, we are going to do the unison affirmation, so join me in saying it. Hopefully it's up there. It is. Okay. We pledge to create a welcoming community that celebrates human diversity, encourages spiritual growth, fosters responsiveness to our world, and commits to the future of all children. And I'm just going to have a quick scenery change, and I'll be right back. All right, guys. Thanks so much for having me speak again. I'm doing I don't know, I feel like I went way too off on every topic on this message, but I'm going to try to get through it and hopefully not take up too much time. I want to talk about money today. Money in general is, yes, a big part of that, but really I'm getting at money for the sake of money, which I think is where the problems start to arise. When we choose money over things that the money is supposed to allow us to do, if that makes sense. Because though money is a necessary tool for creating a functioning society, it's a universally fungible material that we all agree has a certain value. But really, when you consider what money actually is, it's not anything real. It only has the value that we give it. And actually, when you consider how shaky a premise money is, it's really pretty astounding that we all even slightly cooperate and obey the rules of this system. Because we do have to all really collaborate for money to work at all. People as a communal mind have to agree on the things that we value and the things that we don't. But the universal collaboration of the entire human race is a pretty tall order. And do we all play by the same rules? Do you, listening to me this morning, do you play by the same rules as everyone else in this room? Recently, I was interacting with a couple of people that were from Europe. They're from Germany right now, but they've lived all over Europe, I think. I'm pretty sure. Someone in our group asked them a common question, a question that we ask all the time, that I'm sure you've asked someone and not thought much about. And the question was, what do you do? The man who was asked this question, he spoke extremely fluent English. In fact, if you didn't know he was from Europe, you probably would have not even heard his accent. So it was clear he understood the question, but culturally there was a massive disconnect, and he didn't understand what was being asked. What do I do? He said. And he looked back at my friend kind of confused. And he said, I drink when I'm thirsty, and he held up his beer. And he said, I eat when I'm hungry, and he pointed to his fries. And he said, I sleep when I'm tired. What do you mean, what do you do? And we all just kind of laughed, and we explained that here in America, when someone asks the question, what do you do? The understood implication is, what do you do for work? What's your job? How do you make money? Yes. And while it was kind of a funny situation, I think it casts a light on something that we can easily forget. That in our country especially, we actually attribute a huge part of our identity fundamentally as a person to what we do in order to make money. How many times when you're introducing somebody or maybe describing them have you attached their occupation almost as if it was another name? This is Michael, the musician. This is Julia, the speech pathologist. Or maybe you remind me of my friend Dave, he's a barista. This alone is not really a problem to me. People tend to choose their occupations based on things that they like to do, and therefore they end up identifying with that occupation. The problem, I believe, arises when we misassign the value to the things people do, which is something that we so often do in the pursuit of greater wealth. One of the things that I do as part of my occupation, and I consider a little bit a part of my identity, is I do music therapy. I work for a music therapy nonprofit, and they send me to a lot of different places, and I play music for people because it helps them. And many of these places that I go to are assisted living facilities. In one of the facilities that I frequent, I've gotten to know an older gentleman very well. We'll call him Charlie. That's not his name, but I don't want to give his actual name. And Charlie is an Alzheimer's patient, and he struggles with staying present a lot. But when I play music, for some reason, that brings him back. It's only for a little while, but Charlie and the workers in the facility value that, so they pay me to do this. When Charlie is feeling lucid, he'll walk over to me, and he'll grab me by the arm, and he'll say, I can't do his voice. I'm going to try to do his voice. Let me tell you about when I used to design nightclubs in New York. The songs you play remind me of those days. Those were the days. And we'll sit together, and he'll tell me stories. And he relays tales of love and betrayal and loss, hope, lessons to live by in this low, raspy voice colored deeply by years of smoking cigarettes. And he speaks with such a passion and such clarity that everyone in the room just kind of gets quiet and they listen. They lean in and hold their breath. Gasps can be heard with each dramatic turn and sighs of adoration when he speaks of his late wife, who he clearly loved very much. Charlie had this rich, vibrant, and interesting life. And after many decades of colorful living, he has something valuable to give all of us. All of us that are willing to listen, that is. It's valuable to me, and I think it's valuable to everyone at the facility, who doesn't enjoy a good story. What lessons can we learn from someone who has nearly a century of experience? And yet, somehow, if we follow the money, we don't see that value reflected in any kind of money. If we follow the money, it may lead us to someone who has a lot of money. Let's say, just for example, Donald Trump, okay? A lot of money leads to Donald Trump. What did Donald Trump do to gain all that wealth in the beginning? All that respect, all that value. He bought a hotel, right? That's what he did. Lots of money in hotels, huge profit margins. So what that tells me as a society is that we value a hotel owner greatly because we assign a lot of fundamental value to what people do to make money. But what did Donald Trump really do to earn that spot? Well, he probably spent 20 minutes in a room with a few businessmen. He signed a few papers, shook some hands, and he promised them money which he borrowed from his father. What did Charlie do to earn the thing that I think has value, that he gave to me? He spent a century living, learning, and then he is able to convey all that knowledge to all the people willing to listen for nothing. And it's a sad society where we value someone who just makes a quick deal in a room with some businessmen, and we don't value someone who spends an entire lifetime and is willing to share that knowledge. I believe that we've misappropriated where that value should be. So how does this happen? Why does this happen? And how do we turn it around? Well, let's start with how it happens. As I said, the creation of money is a pretty unavoidable thing, and I do not believe that money is intrinsically a bad thing. You may have heard the phrase, money is the root of all evil. I disagree. First of all, I'm not even sure that I believe in evil, but a facsimile of evil exists. And I believe that evil arises when people have a bad relationship with money, a bad relationship with value. The value gets misappropriated when someone gets it in their head that they can kind of play the angles like a pool shark, essentially create money out of thin air. Let me give you an example. Let's say that I go to buy a pot from Sue. She makes pots. She tells me she's worked hard on this pot, but she's an honest person and she's willing to give me a fair price. And I'm just going to throw out a number. She doesn't want to take advantage of me, so she's honest and she charges me, let's just say $40. But let's say I'm not an honest person and I want to create money out of thin air to further my own interests. If I can convince someone else that this pot is worth not $40, but $100, but I only paid $40, I'm creating $60 out of thin air, right? But what did I do? What value did I bring to this interaction? Why am I getting money? You may say that I did some work, right? I found someone who wanted the pot so badly that they were willing to pay $100 for it. So I did a little legwork, right? And that act alone does have some value. But I'm making more money than the person who originally created the pot. Chances are I'm spent less time and less energy. I put less of my heart and soul into the work than Sue did, and yet I made more money. So where is that money really coming from? It's actually coming from Sue, right? I took advantage of Sue. And this is where things get really dicey really, really fast. Because the problem is value is subjective. And having a system of money like the one we have forces us to put a hard number on something that really can't be represented with something so one-dimensional as a number. The reason I made more money than Sue in that scenario is because I knew the value of the pot is subjective, and I was willing to set aside my morals. I was willing to set aside the fact that I knew $100 isn't really a fair price to charge for the pot, and with a little persuasion, I can make a lot of money for less work. This happens on a macro level, billions of times a day, probably, with pretty much any of the products that you buy from a big box store or Amazon, Walmart, Target. In fact, the profit margin that I described, which was 150%, is not even far-fetched at all. Many times, these giant companies will take advantage of workers, especially in countries like China, Taiwan, and India, and charge profit margins of over 200% of what they paid for the products. Advertising, marketing, technology, and social media has made this issue even more rampant than ever because advertisers are extremely good at what they do. And I'm going to try and prove that to you. I want you to consider something for a second. Take the company Facebook, okay? Can we all agree that Facebook has a lot of money? Yes? Yes. Let's follow that money. Where does it come from? You don't pay to use Facebook. So what is their product? What do they sell? Yeah. Yes. So they make their money from ad revenue, right? But they're not selling anything. Facebook isn't selling anything. What they're selling is you. They are selling your attention. They have your attention and they sell it to advertisers. The more attention they can get from you, the more information they can get from you, and therefore they can advertise more accurately to you, and they can generate more money. The reason that Facebook is as profitable as it is because this works. It wouldn't exist if it didn't work. Even if you think it doesn't work on you, that's part of the whole plan. The proof is in the pudding. Facebook is one of the most profitable companies in the world despite having a free service. Advertising is just persuasion. It is the equivalent of me convincing someone that they need this pot and it's worth $100. Somebody or some company that is really good at persuading people is destined to make a ton of money. And they can make even more if they're willing to set aside their morality and charge a more obscenely high price. Why? Because value is subjective. They've convinced the workers overseas that their value is low. And they've convinced us here in the U.S. that that value is higher. And there's nothing illegal about this. In fact, I think many people would even applaud these businessmen. They may commend the shrewd business sense, saying things like, well, I don't blame them for wanting to make some money, or that's just called knowing the market. If you in the audience were placed in a situation where all of a sudden you saw an easy way to make a ridiculous amount of money without doing all that much work, would you jump on it? You don't see them. You don't see those people across the ocean. And that brings us to why. Why do these huge companies with all the resources in the world feel that it is okay to take advantage of their manufacturers, okay to take advantage of their customers, their employees? I'm sure there's more. They take advantage of everyone. I think that we can all agree that there comes a point where personal wealth is simply gratuitous. Yes. For example, if you have enough money to personally fund a trip into outer space, if you amass a collection of vehicles worth millions and millions of dollars that you don't drive, but you have to pay people to upkeep, or you have a house that's so large it requires a staff of over 45 people to tend, the extremely wealthy elite person can only exist if they are willing at some point along the way to take advantage of someone else, and therefore profit disproportionately. And as Doug said a couple weeks ago when he was talking about climate change, I think the why is a spiritual problem, not a societal problem, not an economic problem. It's not a problem with the federal government or with the conservatives or with the liberals. It comes from a fundamental misunderstanding of what we owe each other as human beings. The inherent worth and dignity of every person. Sounds pretty simple, but we treat retail workers as less than office workers. We treat CEOs and billionaires as gods and take advantage of poor factory workers in Asia. We forget that the teenager checking us out at Speedway has just as much right to your respect as Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos. The commitment to that tenet, the conviction that it takes to uphold that sacred phrase in practice is far, far more difficult to conjure than most people realize. Why does it happen? Why does evil arise from our obsession with wealth? Because we're all just breakable, damaged children somewhere deep inside of us. It happens because we get cold and we want to be able to afford to keep warm. It happens because we get scared and we want to feel secure. It happens because we get lonely and we want to take care of a big family so that we can surround ourselves with people and laughter and good food. People do their most callous, heartless, and depraved things when they are motivated by fear. And that motivation so easily and so casually slithers its way into our everyday spending, especially here in America, where our economic, social, and cultural pressures are so centered around personal wealth. People get tired, they get stressed, or they get traumatized, and they react. It's not an easy thing to counteract. Choosing, it is a choice, choosing to respect the inherent worth and dignity of every person is not something that you do passively. Your first instinct is always to react selfishly when you're afraid. It's not something that you can do perfectly after years of actively engaging your mind, forcing it to stay on track. It is a constant struggle of which you have to remind yourself daily. No, more often than daily, hourly. You have to wake up each and every morning, forgive yourself for the mistakes that you've made, and push forward, attempting to solve a brand new puzzle every day. How to be the best I can be today. And we don't hit a home run every day. People choose their own personal safety and security over that of others all the time. I do it. They find ways to play the angles. They purposefully misappropriate the value of goods and services in order to further their personal interests. But I think this is really, really important to remember. It's not because they are inherently bad people. They do it because they, like everyone, have something they are so terrified of that they will do everything in their power to ensure that fear does not become a reality. It's understandable, but that doesn't make it right. So how can we be better? Well, I wish I had an easy one-line answer, but like most Unitarians, when I try to answer one tough question, I usually end up creating 7 even more complex questions. So I'm going to try to give you some things that I think maybe will help. And then I wanted to leave plenty of time because I wanted to have a discussion with you guys of ways that you think we could be more ethical spenders. Okay, so let me give you a few things that I thought of. So, one, this is something that I try to do. Whenever you are about to spend money on something, try to think of the unintended consequences of the action you're about to make. Who is creating the thing that you're buying? What is it made of? Where does that material come from? And mostly importantly, if I follow the money I'm about to spend, do I like where it's going to end up, right? Unfortunately, this is so much easier said than done, right? There are many scenarios where I don't like where my money is ending up, and I can't find an alternative quick enough, right? So, like I said, forgive yourself for your mistakes. Another one. Remember, the price of anything you buy is made up, it's subjective, and it's probably someone trying to persuade you that there is more value to be had than there actually is. So try to remember the influence of the things around you. Once again, part of the plan of advertisers is for them to make you not realize that they are influencing you. So once again, a lot easier said than done, but try to be aware of the influence that advertisers have over you. Here's another one that I think is very important. When interacting with a worker doing their job, whether it be a service, retail, maintenance, whatever it is, remember the inherent worth and dignity of every person. Most service and retail jobs are disgustingly underpaid. Disgustingly. Treat them with the love and the kindness that they deserve. Okay. I already talked about this a little bit, but try to remember that advertising and marketing affects you in a subconscious way. Most people buy things regularly that they will stop using almost immediately. on average daily. I think that most people here are probably a little bit better than that. Try to make sure that you're not buying things simply for the feeling of security and control that purchasing things gives you. And lastly, remember to forgive yourself when you make mistakes. It is extraordinarily difficult to maintain the constant vigilance that it requires to respect the inherent worth and dignity of everyone in relation to your spending. Unintended negative consequences of how you spend your money are inevitable, and all anyone can do is try to just be a little bit better every day. And thank you guys for listening. What I'm going to do is I want to hear your ideas on ways you can be a more ethical spender. I think I'm just going to pull up that mic so we can come, because I want people to be able to hear and see on Zoom too. And I also can take some questions from Zoom people if they want. If you want, yeah, pull. Thank you. Let me just grab that mic.
One thing I do all the time on watching television is I mute the commercials. I've almost worn out my mute button because I will not listen to the commercials. And when I was raising my kids, I tried to emphasize the difference between needing something and wanting something. And there is a tremendous difference. If you need it, you need it. If you want it, you want it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that advertising and everything, they kind of go hand in hand, right? Advertising makes you think you need things that you actually don't need. Yeah. So, yes, creating demand where it never existed before. Absolutely. Yes, Sue.
I could talk all morning on this, Michael. But first of all, I'd like to hire you as my agent for a 50% kickback. And I worked for an advertising agency for 9 years, and I finally quit because I'm a slow learner, and I realized how unethical it was for me. And we had some really great clients, but, well, I think it's really important to follow that money in every way we spend it, and I would like, because of my time on the board here at this church, I would like to encourage our board to look into our investments, because I'm not sure they are entirely ethical. And I just think it's time for an audit, and go for it. But in everything, we have to make decisions about what good our money is doing, not only for us, but for the people that we are giving it to. And it goes across the board. It's in investments, it's taking care of animals, have animals been tested for this cosmetic? And the other piece I really appreciate is that, the worth and dignity of every person. I see people railing against clerks in stores. They're doing their job. And the more respect we give, the better everything will be for everybody. And they're people just like us. They put their pants on in the morning the way we do. So I really appreciate your attitude towards money. It aligns a lot with mine, as we know, but just thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Sue. I did have a whole section in my talk originally about the stock market and investments. And I decided that I wanted the talk to be more like 20 minutes or under instead of an hour and a half. So I decided to cut that part. But yeah, it is, it's the stock market, when you talk about misappropriating a value, investments are probably the number one culprit in the world of that. You know, the stock market is essentially a house of cards. It only has value because someone is saying this has value, and it. Oh man, it's dicey, but yeah, thanks Sue, Marcia. Yeah.
The thing that came to my mind as you were talking, and this has been a fascinating conversation that we're having, is that we live in a senior community, Otterbein, and every bit of profit, at least this is what I understand. If you buy something from what's called the shaker cellar, which is things that people brought when they moved and didn't really need, and then you can go in and buy furniture and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
All the profit goes to the benevolent fund, and all the profit in the shaker cellar, no, the other place where you buy clothes and things like that, all goes to the benevolent fund. Anything left over from anything goes to the benevolent fund. And there's something really, the benevolent fund could end up helping us. I don't know. Let's hope we don't end up running out of enough money to pay for our life. But somebody does. Somebody will. Yeah. And the fact that we're involved in a system now where the future of the people who live there is considered by ways they make money and save money and put money into the fund, so that there's just a very comfortable feeling. I love the word benevolent fund. It makes me feel good when I buy something that I know is the profits are going to go to the benevolent fund, and that makes a real difference, I think, in how much I'm willing to spend or what I'm willing to buy. So I think knowing that there's good will come out of what I spend, as opposed to Jeff Bezos, somebody. Anyway, thank you.
Yeah, I love that. Yes, when you follow that money and you like where it ends up.
Tell a little story about Tom. We were Christmas shopping one year. It was when it's a long time ago, because it was downtown. Not Pogues. There was another store up the street, Shillitoe's, and there weren't many people in downtown at that time. So we were there one evening, and Tom was talking to a clerk about what he should get for somebody, and she suggested that there were these oils that they had, infused oils that were pricey, but she thought they were wonderful, though she'd never had any and couldn't afford them, but she thought they were wonderful. Mm-hmm. So he went down, he got a bottle of the oil, he had it wrapped, and he went back up and he gave it to her.
That's great. Yeah, that sounds like Tom. Yeah.
I did want to check to see, is there anybody on Zoom that wanted to share any thoughts?
I can't imagine.
Don't want to
Lindsay
ignore you guys
have
there.
Something to share.
See,
yeah,
there we go,
there she
Lindsay. You'll have to go off of mute, Lindsay, but then we'll listen to you.
I heard that, Michael. Many of you know that that this is one of my pet peeves, and I don't buy anything on Amazon because of that. And I spent many years working individually, small business by small business, and the law of unintended consequences is so stunning to me in this particular setting of how you use your money and your buying power. Everybody is talking now about needing to have a downtown and bringing businesses back to downtown and having a walkable environment, all kinds of wonderful things that people think sound great. But if you ask them when the last time they went to the stores that are downtown and bought something for someone or themselves or something they needed, they can't tell you when. And my sister, I adore her, but she'll go try something on and then go home and buy it online because it's cheaper. I'm like, are you kidding me? So we absolutely have to realize that where we do choose to spend our money is like voting. It's us saying what we want and what we want to support. And so if you can't find it in a store, you don't really need it. That was awesome, Michael. I loved your talk today.
Thanks, Lindsay. I really like that last phrase you just said. If you can't find it in a store, you don't need it.
That's great.
Yeah.
There? Okay. I actually wanted to share a thought, maybe a somewhat contrary, but not contrary thought. I think the important thing is intentionality in my mind. Kimberly knows I have found some of the coolest, amazing things from like small woman-owned local companies via targeted Facebook ads.
Yes.
I love them because they know me, but I know they know me. So I've also gotten a lot of things that I'm like, good Lord, get rid of this thing.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
and I think the intentionality of how we spend is what matters. And also, talking about the stock market, there's enough people out there that want to have ethical investments that there's plenty of ways to invest in things that have been pre-screened. Big companies, small companies. I mean, I have investments in this sustainable company index, which is big giants, but that have a good track record. I have investments in companies that supply clean water. There's a EFT or whatever for companies that supply clean water in developing markets. Gives a great return. So there are opportunities out there to be intentional with how you spend as opposed to not spending. And both I think are important, and they both play a role.
You're absolutely right. Yes, you're 100% right. Yeah. I totally agree with your thing about the targeted Facebook and Instagram ads. Because, I have found really, really cool stuff because that algorithm is so good at finding your little niche interests, right? It's a double-edged sword like anything else, right? Yeah.
I think you alluded to it before, Michael, but culture, I think, is important too. I know Brad's lived overseas. For 20 years, I lived 4 months of the year. So I guess if you do the fractions, it's not just a minimal amount. In Austria and Germany, well, my two best friends are in Austria and Germany. And when I teach it in class, I do teach a class with cultures involved at the university there. And people talk about differences between cultures. And in terms of at least Austria and Germany, the people there work to live.
Mm-hmm.
No, literally. I mean, they work their 8 to 5. If it doesn't get done that day, it'll get done the next. They demand and get 6 weeks vacation and they save for it all year long. Whereas in this country, we, live to work. And that's a big difference. I mean, it really is. And they also tax themselves to pay for everything. You don't see people begging on the street. Mm-hmm. Their social services cover everything. I mean, literally. Yeah, I mean, so, somebody's got to pay for all this stuff. And I've never heard an Austrian German complain about taxes. Never. I've never have. Health care a little bit, but you can get private if you want. Okay, so, we got to change the culture here. That's just, we got to worry about the people. And just for example, the servers in restaurants get paid a living wage. And you can tip them if you want. But it's not, and they love us because we're ingrained with 15%. Okay, they round up. That I've never said, do you round up to the next 100 or the next cent? Yeah. Unfortunately, my German friend rounds up to the nearest cent, so I don't let him. He says, "Can I get the tip here?" Because I buy his lunch. I said, "No, I'm not, Axel. I got to come back here. If I let you tip, I'll get. They'll spit in my food, or something like that." So it is. I think it's a cultural thing as well.
It is.
So
I think that
you alluded to that some before.
And it is a cultural thing, and I think that the culture, what causes that culture is very complex, but I think it does stem from that spiritual problem that I was saying. The reason that we have got to this point is because we are willing to set aside the inherent worth and dignity of other people. We're willing to compromise on that a little bit.
And most immigrants left for a reason.
Yeah.
So that reason is fairly common, actually. So they brought that with them.
Right.
It's MJ. Can I say something?
Yeah. Go ahead, MJ.
One of the weirdest things about being in ministry most of my life has been that people don't value the people that are around ministry. I can't say how many times, and I've talked to you, Michael, about this, I've heard the phrase from people, well, they're doing the music job at church, but they like to do it so it doesn't have to be paid so well. And sometimes we think about our ministers the same way. They're doing what they like. They're a service person. They're supposed to be there for us. They don't really need to be paid so well. And that's a part of church culture everywhere that I have been. It's got to do with that whole poverty idea that is in a different faith than mine. And I want us as a congregation to think seriously about how our value system works as we look forward to who keeps the congregation going and what they do to make it get going and how we value those things, because it's very important.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks for that input, MJ. That's something that I hadn't really thought about, but yeah, thank you.
I do watch some advertising on television, and what gripes me the most is these prescription medicines. And they're trying to create a market and make people think, oh, I'm sick with that. I'll talk to my doctor about that. And they're creating a need that's not there. And as far as workers in the store, how about flight attendants? And the respect that they do not give.
Yeah. That's a good one. Yeah, I hadn't considered that. Yeah.
I think some of what's going to happen with corporations is going to get a lot worse, and their influence is going to become much more pervasive, because since they were deemed people by the Supreme Court, what happens is they can now contribute huge amounts of money to political campaigns, and corporations have no empathy, no feeling, nothing for the environment or the people around them. Their sole purpose is to make money.
Money for money's sake.
And because they have no feeling and no empathy for, and just to give you an example, my brother was a lawyer for 40 years, 30 years, whatever, and he was in charge of, he was an accountant, and he was in charge of executive benefits. And so he got to sit on the board as an ex officio member. And he said they would bring up all kinds of weird things, and he'd say, well, that's going to pollute, or that's going to do this, or that's going to do whatever.
But they didn't care about that.
It was, and the people would say, well, it doesn't make any difference.
Yeah.
Because this particular thing's going to make more money. He became known as the corporate pinko, but he didn't care. He was still could sit on the board and voice his opinion, but that's why I think it's going to get worse, because, as I said, corporations' only purpose is to make money.
Yeah. Thank you, Sue. Well, yeah, we'll have one more, and then we need to move on. Yeah.
I just want to go back, Michael, to your opening song, which I really enjoyed. I had not heard that. It was a significant song, but there's the fear. Nobody knows you when you're down and out, and the fear is that you won't have enough money, and in this country, if you don't, your dignity just goes right in the toilet if you don't have enough money. So that's where the fear comes from.
Thank you for noticing that. Yes. All right. Thanks, guys. We're going to move on, and we'll have Sharing Our Wealth. And I'm just going to play this next song while we do the Sharing Our Wealth. And Sharing Our Wealth is such an important thing to do. You know, I think we all know what to do, how to do it. So baskets go around. I'm gonna play this song, which is a very tongue-in-cheek song. It has this great line right at the beginning. I made my money selling $1 million bills. I made my money selling $1 million bills. Half off, get 'em while they're hot. I made my money selling $1 million bills. Ooh, $1 million bills. I take that money and I turn it into thrills. Cup, buttercup, take 'em for a ride. I take that money and I turn it into thrills. Ooh, $1 million bills. I'll cure your loneliness. Don't worry about the price. Say you can't buy happiness, but pull out your wallet and try. You gotta give them what they want, then tell them that they want it. Gotta give the people what they want once they want it. $1 million, $1 million, $1 million bills. $1 million, $1 million bills. Gotta give the people what they want, give the people what they want, give the people what they want. $1 million bills. I put my face on $1 million bill. Half off, get 'em while they're hot. I put my face on $1 million bill. Ooh, $1 million bill. 'Cause money makes you lucky, it also makes a pretty face. I'll take your money and I promise that I'll keep it safe. I made my money selling $1 million bills. Ooh, $1 million bills. I'll cure your loneliness. Don't worry about the price. They say you can't buy happiness, but pull out your wallet and try. You gotta give them what they want, then tell them that they want it. Gotta give the people what they want once they want it. $1 million, $1 million, $1 million bills. $1 million, $1 million, $1 million bills. You gotta give the people what they want, give the people what they want, give the people what they want. $1 million bills. $1 million bills. I'll cure your loneliness. Don't worry about the price. They say you can't buy happiness, but pull out your wallet and try. You gotta give them what they want, then tell them that they want it. Gotta give the people what they want once they want it. $1 million, $1 million, $1 million bills. What they want, they tell them that they want it. Gotta give the people what they want once they want it. $1 million, $1 million, $1 million bills. $1 million, $1 million, $1 million bills. You gotta give the people what they want, give the people what they want, give the people what they want. Gotta give the people what they want, give the people what they want, give the people what they want. You gotta give the people what they want, give the people what they want, give the people what they want. Oh man, I love that song. All right. All right. Well, I have joys and sorrows now, so I'll set up this mic up here, and so we can. I guess we could. I'll set up this mic. Yeah, let's do it.
Maybe we can start with Zoom. I think Lindsay's got her hand raised.
Yeah.
Yes, I do. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. I wanted to make a special note for everybody there to take a moment on your way in or out of the church today to notice the remarkable work of the ongoing garden committee and the mulch team that arrived yesterday and in 3 hours spread 4 yards of mulch. So it was quite a remarkable activity. And so I wanted to specifically mention, first off, the gardening team that works all the time, Ann Bobinick, Ann McCracken, Sally Ann Killian, and Marsha Friedoff. But then to add in, they were all there yesterday too. But in addition, Alan Garrison, my niece, Nicole McDonald, who many of you met, my husband, John Sudreth, Dave Monahan, who was typically our Boy Scout wrangler when the Boy Scouts came, Dave Hester, and Marcia and Richard Venus. And I'm telling you, this was the most remarkable work crew you've seen. And I hope that if you see them there, you'll take a moment and thank them personally, and that you'll get some joy out of all they did. And then one other quick thing is that Alan and John are working. I know many of you have noticed that the fountain is gone. We're taking it around to a variety of people to try and figure out how to repair it. So it's not gone, but we are still in the process of figuring it out. So thank you.
That's great, Lindsay. Thanks for sharing that. Anyone else have a joy or sorrow they want to share? Yeah, yeah.
Michael alluded to this when he spoke this morning about announcements, but I have a joy in that services are nearly planned all the way through December. We're starting with Rabbi Bar on New Beginnings, the very first Sunday after when Doug has left, so we'll start there. And then we start the summer with the 7th UU principal, about the interrelated. We're having a lot of kind of fun things, as well as regular services for the summer, including things like Tom will be here to do an Ojibwe medicine wheel outside one Sunday, so we'll do that, and in honoring the earth. We have people coming to talk about better use of our land and to introduce us to some new ideas that we can think about. We hope to have a homecoming picnic, and so there'll be a lot of things that will be going on. Also, the 2nd of July will be a bonfire. We won't have service on the 3rd, but we'll have a bonfire that evening before, and we hope all the young people who play instruments will come and have a jam session for us around the fire. So we're looking forward to some really exciting things. And then in August, we'll get into things like respect and dignity and respect to health care and some other things. So we're using the principles. And so we have things pretty much. I have a stem cell researcher will be coming during that, along with some other things that are happening. So things are going to be exciting. Hang in there. Pay your pledges. We're working hard.
It certainly was a joy meeting with you about that, Ann. It's good. It's gonna be good. Anyone else got a joy or sorrow to share? Anyone on Zoom? Nope. Okay. Let's move on. All right, so we got our last hymn, and then we'll close things up for today, go on our merry ways on this beautiful Mother's Day. I'm going to be cooking my mom lunch. I don't know what I'm going to cook her yet. I haven't gotten that far. It'll be good. All right, We Would Be One, number 318. Great tune, beautiful melody. Sing along with me. We would be one, as now we join in singing our hymn of love, to pledge ourselves anew to that high cause of greater understanding of who we are and what in us is true. We would be one in living for each other, to show to all a new community. We would be one in building for tomorrow, a nobler world than we have known today. We would be one in searching for that meaning which binds our hearts and points us on our way. As one we pledge ourselves to greater service, with love and justice strive to make us free. Thank you, everyone, and go about, try to just remember that inherent worth and dignity of every person. I think that's a great rule to live by. Thanks so much for listening to me this morning, and enjoy your Mother's Day.
And actually, if I may, we're going to try something new. I'm going to set up the camera in the sanctuary so everyone on Zoom can interact with whoever's in the sanctuary.
Well, that's remarkable, Alan. Thank you. Hi, Mary Lou.
Anyone, I mean, so anyone who's talking to people on Zoom, they can't hear you unless you talk to a microphone. So. We basically use like a streaming. Yeah.